Hi everyone, welcome to Basketball Victoria's online sporting schools program. My name's Jared and this is Lockie. We're here from Frankston Basketball. Today's session is the third session that we're going to be running, so the focus today is going to be a little bit more on shooting and footwork as well as some ball handling as well. We're going to get into a warm-up before we get started though. So our warm-up today, the first exercise we're going to do is just your standard high knee running, up and back. Now go back. We need the extra warm-up today. High knee skips is the second exercise, so high knee skips. And we'll go back. Then we've got a lateral hop or like a lateral slide exercise, so we're just going to skip across from one side of the key to the other. You can make this sideline to sideline if you like to extend the warm-up out a little bit. We're going to do some zigzags, so we're going to just changing direction, focusing on changing direction. Careful with this one. And we'll go back. Nice one. We've got our pitter-patter stops, so we're going to just kind of sprint out a couple of steps, come to a pitter-patter, take off and go again. So it's just acceleration, deceleration. So we take off, pitter-patter and go again. Away we go. And then we're going to come to the front here and finish off with 10 squats. So just body weight squats, sitting down on our imaginary chair, get nice and warm. So the first drill we're going to do today, we're going to be working on the footwork and technique behind a layup. So when we're teaching beginners, the layup is basically the movement that we want to add if they're coming off the dribble or off the bounce and into their steps up to a layup. So the reason we do a layup is because it's a higher percentage shot and they don't have to come to a complete stop before shooting. Okay, so you'll see what I mean in a second when we start to put it into a practical sense. But basically we want to give our kids all the tools they can to be scoring as many baskets as they can around the hoop. So today's drill, we don't need a basketball. Okay, so that's a really good point for coaching kids these movements, is that we don't need a basketball for this drill, because a lot of the time you hand the kids a basketball and straight away they just want to shoot it. They're not thinking about the footwork. So we take the basketball out of it for this drill and we call this one the layup high five drill. So Lockie's going to start on one of our Aussie Hoops dots about 2 meters from me. Now if you've got a classroom here, you might have people paired up, you might have kids paired up, you might have 10 kids along the sideline facing their partners about 2 or 3 meters apart. The big thing with this is to remember too, do we want enough space to be able to complete the full steps? So basically Lockie's a right-hander, he needs to be able to take 2 full steps and then jump up to be able to get to me for this high five. So the reason we're using the high five training aid today is obviously with social distancing, we need to make sure that we're not making any physical contact with our partner. You don't need one of these training aids. You could just use a broomstick or a hula hoop or something you might have for the kids to be able to jump up and touch. But essentially what we're focusing on here is Lockie's going to go right foot, left foot, and then spring up into that layup movement and then just jog back. And we're going to do that about 3 or 4 times. Bang. Need a bit higher, eh? Perfect. So as you can see, he's completing the proper footwork, right foot, left foot, bouncing off his left foot. Another really important thing to coach as well, as you can see, so that he's getting as much vertical as he can, is he's driving that right knee up as a part of that movement. So he's springing off that left leg and really bouncing up off that right foot. Perfect, excellent. So again, if you want to challenge the kids a little bit here too as well, you can start to ask them to do this on their non-dominant side. Okay, so for Lockie, that's going to be his left foot, so we're changing the footwork up slightly, and we're going to get Lockie to go left foot first and up into a left foot layup movement. Yep. So really good if you've got some kids that are playing domestic already. This might be a good chance for them to challenge their footwork. They might be having trouble with this footwork when the basketball's in their hand and all they're thinking about is getting the ball in the hoop. Take the basketball out of it, take the hoop out of it, and just get them to really focus in on this footwork. Okay, so now we've done our layup high five drill, we're going to move on to a layup passing game. So again, we're starting to build on some of the skills that we learnt in session 2 with the passing and also session 1 with the dribbling. So we're going to start, Lockie's going to start basically on the block. If you don't have the block painted on your keyway or on your court, you basically just want to come about 45 degrees out from the hoop, maybe 2 meters. Lockie's not going to dribble to begin with. He's just going to go in and complete a layup. So he's just going to go right foot, left foot into a layup. Straight from there, he's going to grab his rebound and turn. And the aim of the game is he's got to hit one of these targets. So as we play this with different levels, there'll be different challenges. You can make it that they have to make the layup in order to be able to have a shot at their target. Lockie will go to try and pass at the target using proper technique. If he hits the target, that would be 1 point for his team. And you could play this with a group of 5 to 10 kids on either side of the key, setting up targets in some space where they're not going to sort of hit each other's basketball. So we'll just demonstrate a really basic version of it now without the dribble. Go for it, Lockie. Into a layup, and then he's got to make a pass. Bang, perfect. So that would be 1 for Lockie. He would chase his basketball and go again. If we wanted to build this up a little bit, we could start to add the dribble. Okay, so we could grab the dot and maybe take 1 or 2 steps back, and Lockie would then be building on this. If you find that you're working with some older students that are more competent at doing a layup and you can tell they can get the footwork and they're able to dribble into their layup, you might even be able to start further back. But we'll just start here, we'll add the dribble in. Perfect, and then we're passing it a target. Bang, great job. Okay, so again, the challenges with this, obviously we're competing. We'd hopefully have 2 teams or maybe 3 or 4 teams if you're using both ends of the court. If not, if you've just got a smaller group of people, again, you would just be doing it so that maybe it's individual. They've each got their own basketball and they're just trying to hit as many targets as they possibly can in a minute or 2, and you're putting some time on the clock for them. Again, if you're working with smaller kids, you would just have them not dribbling and they wouldn't have to make the layup in order to still have a shot at a cone. So they can still hit a cone and score a point, and we're still helping them work on the footwork for a layup. If you're working with older kids, you might move that dot right back and have them complete 2 or 3 dribbles into a layup. You might even move your targets right back up to the 3-point line and actually challenge them to step into their pass or take a dribble into their pass before they hit the target. Okay, so now we're going to do another ball handling drill building on what we worked on in session 1. We're going to challenge the hand-eye coordination a little bit, still working on our technique from the first session, but we're going to challenge our kids a little bit more to see if they can start to use both hands together and also moving the ball in a multi-directional pattern with the one hand. So Lachlan's going to complete this drill. It's called the over-the-line drill. So again, you can do this with a full classroom as long as they've got their own basketball. We just set them up all the way along a sideline or the baseline, using the line as a bit of a guide. So what we're going to do now is Lockie's going to start. Again, he's straddling the free throw line here, but this could be the sideline or baseline or whatever you have available. He's in a great athletic stance, sitting on his imaginary chair, triple threat, ready to take his dribble. He's going to start with his right hand, which is his dominant hand. And basically what he's going to do is take one dribble on the right side of the line and then bring the ball across to the left, all in one sort of motion. So he's dribbling, he's able to control the ball. Again, we're making sure we're not carrying the basketball, so that would be a carry, which is a violation. He's just controlling the ball over and back each side. Making sure we're keeping our eyes forward, we're making sure our kids are keeping their eyes forward, keeping their vision up. And now, again, if we want to add a bit of a challenge to this, we could get Lockie to do it with his non-dominant hand, so he switches to his left hand, and he's able to control the ball over the line. Perfect. Excellent. Again, a good challenge for this would be if you had a full class, you might get the stopwatch out and go for 30 seconds. And again, we'd be seeing how many over the line and back you could get in 30 seconds or a minute. The next drill we're going to do, or the next part of this drill we're going to do, if you want to challenge some of the older, more experienced kids, is we're using the line as a guide for our crossover. So again, now we're building towards actually using some movements that can be used to get around a defender to free us for our shot. So Lockie's again in a nice athletic stance, using the line as a guide, and he's just moving the ball from hand to hand. So again, that dog's paw that we learned in session 1 is really, really important. Not as much so in the over the line, but as you can see, it comes back here in our crossover. Lockie's controlling the ball. The fingertips are the last point of contact with the basketball, which is really, really important there. Perfect. Excellent, that's great. And same thing again, you might put 30 seconds on the stopwatch, challenge the kids to see how many crossovers they can get in one go. Again, you can have 20 or 30 kids completing this at the same time, and it's a really good one for them to work on that dribbling technique, which will lead into our next game. Okay, so now we're going to move into our game for today. We've worked on our ball handling skills again. We've rehashed over some of the stuff we learnt in session 1, and we've challenged and built on that. Now we're going to add movement and competition to that. So we can do this in big groups of kids, but you obviously need a lot of space. This game's called Farmer's Gates. So we're going to, as you can see, we've laid out pairs of cones around the key here. But again, depending on how many cones you've got or whatever you might want to use as markers, we could do this in a much, much bigger space. But really the aim of the game is, again, we're putting time on the clock. We have a group of kids out here and we're challenging them to be able to control the ball, keep their eyes forward and keep their vision up and navigate through these farmers' gates. Okay, so we'll demonstrate a really basic version of the game first. Lockie's just going to show how it will work. So he would just start maybe under the basket. We'd have 30 seconds on the clock and we'd say, all right, go Lockie. He'd take off. He's dribbling through one. There he goes, 2 gates. There he's through his 3rd, 4th. All right, perfect. So he'd keep going for 30 seconds, keeping a tally of how many gates he's ran through in that 30 seconds. If we want to build on that, that's a really good place to start and challenge the kids. Obviously, there's a bit of an honesty policy, but you'll know which kids have gotten through the most gates. And the only thing is, really want to focus on coaching that they keep their eyes forward so there's not any collisions in this game. If we want to start to challenge that a little bit, we're working with the 3, 4s and the 5s and 6s. We can add a bit of footwork to this game. So if I get Lockie to demonstrate again, before he would go through a gate or as he's approaching a gate, we might get him to come to a jump stop, okay, so, or a two foot stop I should say. We get him to come to a 2-foot stop. We might even add like a pivot type of a movement, so he's keeping 1 foot down. And another one we could do is when he goes through a gate or as he goes through a gate, he's got to make a crossover before he goes through that gate. So first we'll do the 2-foot stop and a pivot before you go through the gate. Away you go. Good, so we're pivoting around, 1 or 2 pivots, back, good. Whoa. So we're adding a pivot in, perfect. Coming through, excellent, pivoting. And now what we'll do is we'll make it so you've got a crossover through the gate. So as you go through the gate, just add a crossover. Again, depending on the level of kids you've got, you might want to add a dribble, like a dribble combo. So it might be 2 crossovers, it might be through the legs. For the sake of today, we're just going to go just a normal crossover in front of the body. So Lockie's crossing over through each gate. He's got to keep his eyes up. He's navigating through. Perfect. Excellent. Again, you can get really creative with this. If you want to add, if you want to be out and be really active with this, you can even stand in a gate. Okay, so that can add a bit of chaos sometimes if you're out there or you're there with another teacher and you've got, say, 10 or 15 gates laid out and you go and stand in one, so kids have to adapt and they can't go through that gate. Or you can just start picking up gates and moving them around, taking them away, things like that, so there's less targets for them to go through.